The federal government says it will not pay a dime as ransom for the release of over 280 pupils and teachers of government secondary school and early year primary school at Kuriga, Kaduna State, kidnapped on March the 7th. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, revealed this to State House correspondents at the end of Wednesday's Federal Executive Council meeting held at the Aso Rock Villa in Abuja. Idris insisted that the security agencies are working around the clock to ensure their release, or then they will be brought back to safety. His remarks came barely 24 hours after Kaduna-based Muslim cleric Sheikh Hamad Gomi offered to dialogue with the terrorists who abducted at least 280 school children from Kuriga Government Secondary School and early year primary schools in the Chukun local government area of the state.
In Council today, Mr. President reiterated his directive to the security agencies and the Ministry of Defense to ensure that those our kids that have been abducted by these criminal gangs are brought back to their homes safely. And Mr. President has also reiterated his zero tolerance for the payment of ransom. That was also mentioned by Mr. President in Council today. So the security agencies are working around the clock. These children and people that have been abducted by criminal elements will be brought back to safety pretty soon. The security agencies are working hard in that direction.
Still on security matters, nearly a decade after the abduction of 276 female students at government secondary school in Chibok, a local government area in Borno State, families of the remaining 87 captives have remained hopeful they will regain freedom and return to the community. This was disclosed by the spokesperson of the affected community, Manasseh, while paying tribute during the 70th birthday of Pastor Chinedu Ezekwesili, husband of former Education Minister Oby, at a virtual program. The development comes 10 years after 276 students of government girls' secondary schools in Chibok, Borno State, were kidnapped by Boko Haram insurgents on April 14, 2014. However, 57 of the schoolgirls managed to escape, mostly by jumping off the moving trucks and fleeing to the bushes. Earlier, a security expert, Ojo Barrow Michael, joined me on the news to talk about this.
While sympathizing with them, I just laugh at times with the security situation happening in our country. The primary responsibility of a government is to secure the life and property of the citizen. And in a case where a citizen is being kidnapped, and kidnap has become a blooming business in our country today, especially in the north, a call for a state of emergency. So for the president to rule out payment of ransom, I'm sure something must have been in place before we can be able to rule out to tell people that okay, they should not pay ransom when their loved ones have been arrested. There must have been a standard that you want the people to live. The government themselves must have lived up to their expectations. All these things that are happening are not just happening by mistakes. This has become a regular occurrence. So what are the government putting in place to avert all these situations before we can now say, okay, oh, this thing should never have happened. And now that it has happened, not pay ransom. No family member will want to eat when his family member has been kidnapped. No family member will want to sleep when his family member has been kidnapped. So ruling out of ransom for now is not an option.
In the meantime, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has assured residents of the capital of the government's commitment to continue to improve the security situation. Wike made this known after a session with lawmakers at the Senate, where he was invited to give an update on the insecurity situation within the capital. Amadine Uyi reports.
The Senate had passed a motion to allow the FCT Minister and the FCT Commissioner of Police into the Senate chambers, which contravenes the Senate rules of business.
Minister of Federal Capital Territory and Commissioner of Police and Special Advisor to the President of National Assembly Matters into the Senate chamber. I so move.
Those in support of the motion that strangers should be allowed
and our rules should be amended or suspended for now. Can you say aye? Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The rules are hereby suspended. Sergeant at Arms can bring in the strangers into the chambers.
Now, with that out of the way, both the minister and the FCT police commissioner were ushered into the Senate chambers. Shortly after, the Senate went into an executive session to get first-hand information on efforts being done to curb insecurity. After the session, the FCT minister expressed his views on the engagement.
Glad that they are all happy with what we have done and what we are going to be doing, and the suggestions which they have given to us, which I'm not going to disclose to members of the public. It's just a very, very interactive section.
He assured residents that the FCT administration will continue to build on the recent successes achieved in the fight against crime.
Mind you, two most wanted notorious kidnappers, we have gotten them, and that's why you see the level of kidnapping has reduced. So we are not saying that we have gotten to where we want to be, but we're doing a lot, and people must acknowledge that what used to be is not what we are seeing now. And we'll continue to say, we'll continue to do our best by providing the best for our people.
Residents of the federal capital will be hoping that this engagement will translate into tangible results in curbing insecurity. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadin Uyi.
Let's also tell you that the federal government has indefinitely postponed the highly anticipated launch of the Nigerian Student Loan Scheme in a surprising turn of events. The Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, Akintunde Sawyer, revealed this development during an interview, sending shockwaves across the education sector. Originally slated to commence between September and October 2023, after President Bola Tinubu signed a bill in June 2023, which proposed interest-free loans for higher education, the launch has faced multiple delays. President Bola Tinubu, while addressing leaders of the National Association of Nigerian Students, had outlined plans for the scheme's commencement in January 2024, incorporating additional features like vocational studies. However, few hours before the scheduled launch, Sawyer disclosed that the program's rollout was postponed due to necessary corrections being made. Away from that, President Bola Tinubu has announced the immediate reopening of Nigeria's land and air borders with Republic of Niger, along with the lifting of other sanctions imposed on the country. The decision follows the directives of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government made during an extraordinary summit held in Abuja on February 24th, 2024. At the summit, ECOWAS leaders collectively agreed to lift economic sanctions against several West African nations, including the Republic of Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Guinea. Additionally, President Bola Tinubu has authorized the lifting of financial and economic sanctions against the Republic of Guinea, signaling a broader effort towards regional cooperation and normalization of relations. The decision is expected to foster improved diplomatic ties and facilitate economic activities between Nigeria and its neighboring countries, promoting stability and prosperity in the West African region. And to help unpack these, I'm joined live on the news by Bolu Michael B., a foreign policy analyst. Good afternoon. Glad to have you join me.
Good afternoon. Nice to be here.
All right. Let me start off by asking you, do you think President Bola Tinubu's decision to reopen the border was influenced by pressure from Nigerian businesses impacted by the closures?
Well, I don't think, it has like a major influence on the decision of the president to lift the sanctions on Niger and other countries involved with ECOWAS. I think he's just doing the right thing, because often when international decisions are made, countries still have to go back to their respective homes to rectify them. And I think it's the right thing for him to do. And what he has done is what other presidents of other countries within West Africa would do. So sometimes it requires some of these things, depending on the nature the decision made at the international level requires the parliamentary rectification and ratification. So the president doing that is just doing the right thing. I don't think what he's doing was expected of him. I don't think it's influenced by economic pressure. If we should look at the business dynamics between Nigeria and Niger, I think Niger probably needs Nigeria more.
In your view, how do you think the lifting of sanctions, impacts security cooperation between Nigeria and Niger?
Well, the concept of territorial integrity. Just imagine that there's a major police chase of a terrorist between Nigeria and Niger, and the terrorists, let's assume they are Nigerian citizens. And if there's a police chase, and the moment they cross the border into Niger, the Nigerian police force or the army have to stop. They cannot cross the border, but the people who are citizens will be able to cross. That being said, now that the lifting of the sanctions has taken place, there can be joint military operations to secure the borders. There can also be information sharing. Information sharing will be enhanced. So I think the lifting of the sanctions is expected to enhance security between Nigeria and Niger Republic.
I know you touched on this a bit earlier, but in a much broader spectrum, how do you think the resumption of trade flows between Nigeria and Niger will affect economies of both countries? Do you see any potential challenges in the areas of benefit to either of the country?
Okay, I'll start with the challenges. I think that there might be a situation whereby there's a smuggling, if it's not already happening because of the closure, but it can now be emboldened, by the lifting of the sanction, and of course, black market trading, black market activities might increase. But on the flip side, there are potential, positives in terms that the people who live between Niger and Nigeria usually are subsistence, so they can have. The Nigerians can have access to Nigerian foods. Nigeria can have access to Nigerian goods such as livestock and and other foods that they have to offer. Nigeria, and Niger, can I expect that there will be an increase in job creation and general economic activities.
Well, you talked about job creation, also food, food goods and services moving across both countries. What about the long-term implications for Nigeria and Niger relations?
For long term, it creates a friendly atmosphere now that there are no sanctions, no bad blood, no major tension by virtue of the lifting. It creates room for diplomatic talks on any issues, and economically, of course, trade will be enhanced. The friendliness, neighborliness, the benefits of neighborliness, good neighborliness generally. Will be enhanced for the long term. However, in terms of trade, there's a likelihood that there might be some form of trade issues between the two countries which can lead to some form of tension. However, we've not seen that in the last couple of years between Nigeria and Niger, and based on this precedence, it's expected that things will remain so and there won't be any trade tension by virtue of economic activity between the countries.
All right, this is where we call it a wrap. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on the news. Bolo Michael B., foreign policy analyst, thank you once again.
My pleasure. Thank you.
The Nigeria Labour Congress is angry over the failure of about 90% of states to pay the wage award as agreed by the federal government and the organized labor. The NLC said these as the pensioners who retired from the Federal Civil Service threatened to embark on a nationwide protest following the failure of the government to pay their wage award. Labor leaders in Sokoto, Kano, Benue, and Bayelsa State told newsmen that their state government had not paid the wage award, while Gombe, Ogun, and Osun were paying 15,000 or 10,000 naira. The NLC Assistant General Secretary, Chris Onyeka, said the state governors dumped negotiations as they single-handedly gave workers 10,000 naira without any negotiation. Thank you for staying tuned. The House of Representatives has tasked its committees on solid minerals development, commerce, industry, and special duties to investigate the increase in the price of cement across the country. This followed the motion raised on the floor of the House, where the lawmakers expressed displeasure over the recent hike in the price of cement by manufacturers, saying that it is inflicting more hardship on citizens. Our correspondent Idong Joseph reports.
It was a heated debate as lawmakers from the House of Representatives took turns to express their displeasure over the high cost of cement in the country. They say while all raw materials for the production of cement are locally sourced, they see no reason why a 50 kg bag of cement, which was sold at about 3,500 naira in January, should now be sold between 7,000 to 8,000 naira. They accused the manufacturers of capitalizing on the current exchange volatility to smuggle their products out of the country, despite being granted tax waivers.
The manufacturer of cement, less than 2 weeks ago, just declared almost $1 trillion in profits. $1 trillion naira. You have increments almost 6 times in a month. They get interventions. They do obtain waivers on our taxes, and they enjoy forex. Yet,
Mr. Speaker, we are aware that cement is smuggled to Cameroon through Chad, Niger Republic.
While a majority of lawmakers expressed support for an urgent intervention to address this situation, the call by a member of parliament to consider the operational cost of cement manufacturing companies stirred up reactions.
They produce their power through the gas, and the gas they bought it according to the international price. Excuse me. Order, please. Order.
While expressing displeasure that the current situation is impacting negatively on the lives of citizens, they say they want an investigation into the issue.
Cognizant that the increase is a direct affront and sabotage of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration's effort to bring comfort to the populace and should be resolved immediately.
We have been tolerating monopoly for too long in this country. Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues, this must stop.
After deliberation on the motion, the House referred the matter to relevant committees for further legislative action. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
Despite the suspension of Abdul Ningi from the Senate, the dust raised by his budget padding allegation may not settle soon. A recent post by the co-founder and director of Budget, Seun Onigbinde, suggests that there may be truth in Senator Ningi's claim that there is a 3 trillion naira hanging without clear description in the budget. We have more in this report put together by News Central's Nasir Agbalaya.
Yemi Adaramodu, chairman of the Senate Committee on Media and Publicity, had said that entities like INEC, UBEC, Public Complaints Commission, National Judicial Council, NEDC and NDDC are the agencies that the disputed 3 trillion naira are budgeted for. He dismissed the issue of budget padding and emphasized that the claim of 500 million naira constituency funds to senators were baseless. However, Senator Abdul Ningi may not be entirely wrong, as his colleagues had indicated.
Appeal to Nigerians. It's not about what was said there today, because I'm not going to deny that. But we have 12 months to implement 2024 budget. Let every Nigerian wait to see whether there's any of these senators who will not bring enough boreholes, enough solar street lights, enough road construction, and other projects, training and empowerment that will be up to 500 million naira.
If there's anything, we agreed at that meeting, nobody will go to the press. I was asked to comment. I reluctantly comment. Let me use the word of Senator Abaribe. In the 9th Assembly, he will always say, I'm reluctantly agreeing to it. I reluctantly agreed to make a comment. And when I made a comment, I said, if anybody said he has seen anything, provide the evidence. Mr. President, we will deal with the issue of the Senate, of the budget, but we have to also deal with our ethical standard in the Senate. This 3 point something billion, trillion was not part
of the budgetary provisions printed out for us. That would have settled this matter. We are going forth and back on these issues and coming up with issues of the budget and individual issues concerning what came to our various constituencies. If we want to go into those issues, all of us are culpable. Some senators here, so-called senior senators, got 500 million each. I am a ranking senator, I didn't get.
On his X platform, co-founder and director of budget Seun Onigbinde made several remarks in favor of and against Senator Ningi. The government-owned enterprises budget comprises approximately 2 trillion naira of the budget presented by the president, Onigbinde said. Therefore, the MDA's budget is 25 trillion naira. He hopes that if this is what Senator Ningi was referring to, then he will be correct.
Section 66. The President of the Senate or the Chairman, after having called the attention of the Senate or of the committee to the conduct of a senator who persists in irrelevance or tedious repetition, either of his own arguments or of the arguments used by other senators in debate, may direct him to discontinue his speech. That is 66(1). 66(2) also gives the Senate President the power to order the Sergeant at Arms to walk out such a senator.
Take your seat, take your seat, take your seat.
One issue that sticks out like a sore thumb is why the legislators should be at liberty to significantly alter an appropriation document by introducing items that were never planned for or provided for by the executive, who has the responsibility of preparing and executing the budget. Many Nigerians are still wondering why the issue came up at this time in the first place. Is it born out of sincere national interest or a case of sharing formula gone wrong?
Earlier, a public affairs analyst, Deyemi Saka, joined us on the news to discuss this.
Dropping names. Senator Ningi that I know, we met, we had this interaction way back in 2010 all through 2011. So I name as a man that is bold and daring. So I'm not surprised about the stance it took. And for me, watching the debate, watching that report, and I saw earlier reportage where it was claimed that they agreed that nobody should go to the press, and that is authoritarian, that is dictatorial. In a democracy, you can't infringe on the rights of people to express, their opinion if what they think is right or wrong. It's just about, it simply means that to these people at the National Assembly, it's not about national interest, it's not about legislative duties, it's just about them, family affair, party arrangements. And so, because why would you say Nigerians should not be in the know? Because the only way Nigerians can be in the know is if we go to the press, or if this matter comes out to the press. So it's an indictment of the honest, it's an indictment of the National Assembly, as well as the Senate, the honesty, the integrity, the demand of probably their stance on probity and accountability.
The Senate Committee on Banking, Insurance and Other Financial Institutions Chairman, Senator Adetokunbo Abiru, Lagos East, Nigeria, has emerged as the chairman of the Southern Senators Forum, SSF. Senator Abiru took over from Senator Okpeyemi Bamidele, who served as chairman of the forum during the 9th Senate. Senator Bamidele's current position as leader of the 10th Senate prevented him from providing the required leadership, necessitating a change of leadership, which took place at the meeting. Accepting his appointment as a new leader of the forum, Senator Abiru said the forum would serve as a veritable platform for discussing, analyzing, and dissecting national issues by Southern senators to move Nigeria forward.
We have been we are the new leadership now, and the expectation and the responsibility that has been bestowed on us is to champion the cause of Nigeria and Nigerians first and foremost. And of course, again, because we also live in an environment where we also have our northern brothers as well. So what we are meant to do is to also work closely with them in championing the cause of Nigeria. As it is right now, the unity of Nigeria is of uppermost importance to us, and that is what we will be championing. So all of our interests must be aligned, both from the southern end and from the northern end. So for now, there won't be much to really speak to, but as we take on this responsibility, my team and I, we will work together and come out very quickly with some of the plans that we have ahead.
Access Holdings has chosen Aigboje Imoke as its chairman. This was disclosed in a statement issued by Access Holdings to Nigerian Exchange on Wednesday. He replaces Abubakar Jimo, who had functioned in an acting capacity since the demise of former chairman Bababode Oshokoya last November. Ige Mokede and Herbert Wigwe bought Access Bank in 2002 and transformed it into Nigeria's biggest lender by market value. From the year of its acquisition to 2013, Ige Imokede managed the bank, assisted by Wigwe, the managing director of Access Holdings, who died in a chopper crash in the U.S. last month, aged 57 years. In a significant stride towards curbing Nigeria's concerning maternal and child mortality rates, a family planning maternal, newborn and child health initiative reports promising outcomes. Noteworthy achievements include a surge in family planning adoption and overall uptick in maternal, newborn and child health service utilized, with Lagos State residents also witnessing a decline in out-of-pocket expenses. News Central's Dr. Kelechi Okoro has details.
Family planning emerges as a critical catalyst for improving health outcomes. Addressing Nigeria's alarming maternal, infant and under-5 mortality indices, 1,047 per 100,000 live births and 117 deaths per 1,000 live births. Urgent actions are imperative to combat these challenges. Speaking at the Health System Consult Limited's Nigeria State-led strategic purchasing for family planning, maternal child and newborn health, end-of-project dissemination event funded by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Dr. Nkata Chukwu emphasizes the importance of tackling challenges and strategies to improve health service access.
There is clear evidence that when you invest in family planning and MNCH, not only do you save lives, it's a moral thing to do, it's a rights issue, but it actually reduces the cost of providing care eventually, because unwanted pregnancies alone cost more than integrating family planning into your benefit package.
Implementation funders and partners celebrate significant milestones, reporting a 14% increase in the uptake of family planning services.
Family planning holds undeniable importance in enhancing health outcomes. The project support led to the rebranding of the Lagos State Health Insurance Scheme to Ilera Eco and a substantial rise in enrollment from less than 1,000 when the project started to over 950,000 for the formal and informal sector.
In keeping with our mandate, which is the government's attempt to ensure that most Nigerians have health insurance coverage, and that protects them from the catastrophic costs of healthcare.
We're going to be able to bring these parameters down.
The Lagos State Commissioner for Health, Professor Akin Abayomi, underscores the project's success, highlighting recommendations for further improving access to family planning, maternal, newborn and child health services, and also achieving universal health coverage.
What this project has done has to help us as a government, as a Ministry of Health, and within the agency of the Lagos State Health Management sector, to help us identify strategic pathways through which we can gather the data that's necessary, we can build the capacity that's required, and we can apply modern science and actuarial studies to determine how to make available to our reproductive population the opportunity to achieve child spacing.
A resounding takeaway is the recognition that health and well-being of women and girls in Nigeria are integral to the nation's progress. This initiative stands as a beacon of hope, showcasing the potential of collaborative efforts to reshape Nigeria's healthcare landscape, prioritizing the health and empowerment of women, children, and families.
President William Ruto said he has assured the United States that Kenya would lead a multinational mission to tackle spiraling violence in Haiti once a presidential council was set up in the Caribbean nation. The East African country announced it was putting on hold plans to send police to gang-ridden Haiti, throwing the future of the UN-backed mission in doubt. The move came after Haiti's Prime Minister, Ariel Henry, said he had agreed to step aside in a bid to staunch worsening violence that has left public services shattered, many people displaced, and bodies strewn in the street. Ruto said he spoke with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken over the development and underscored Kenya's commitment to the mission. South African Foreign Minister Naledi Pandor announced this week that Israel Defense Forces holding South African citizenship will be arrested upon entering the country. The move by South Africa deepened the rifts between the two nations after South Africa laid accusation of genocide against Israel as the United Nations top court. Pandor further said that those with dual South African Israeli citizenship could be stripped of their South African citizenship. Meanwhile, Israel has responded by accusing South Africa of being a representative of the Hamas militant group that attacked southern Israel on October 7, killing around 1,200 Israelis and taking 250 hostages back to Gaza, sparking the war. The Commissioner General of UN Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees, Filipe Lazzarini, who is also the head of the UN agency responsible for Palestinian refugees, has confirmed an internal report alleging Israeli abuse of Palestinian detainees taken into custody after the October 7th Hamas attack. The agency compiled an internal report citing complaints of mistreatment of Palestinians released back into Gaza. This development comes as a new UN report released this week found that there were reasonable grounds to believe that the conflict-related sexual violence was perpetrated by Hamas against Israelis during the October 7th attacks. Meanwhile, a statement from the Israeli Defense Force said mistreatment of detainees during their time in detention was prohibited, further denying claims of sexual abuse of detainees. And to help unpack this, I'm joined live from Tel Aviv in Israel by News Center's correspondent Bongani Siziba. Bongani, good to have you join me.
Good afternoon, Adebola. Good afternoon to our viewers.
All right. I mean, you have been in Israel and also to the Lebanon border. What can you tell me about the situation on ground?
The situation, like where I am in Tel Aviv, is very calm, and one wouldn't think that we are in a war zone. However, countries that borders Israel continue to fire missiles. Like on Tuesday, we were by the Lebanese border. Just 10 minutes after we left where we were, 100 missiles were fired to Israel, and we were very lucky because it was just when we left the border that these missiles were fired. But the kind of tense situation that is with at the borders of Israel is very tense. And also we know that on the other side in Gaza, also there are fightings. I've been close to the Gaza border where we could see missiles that were being fired. And we could also see helicopters that were dropping food to the people of Gaza. And this shows that the situation here is very intense. And the other thing, we also had an opportunity to speak to the IDF, that is the Israel Defense Forces, who told us that they are also going through a hard time, especially when going into Gaza. Like we know that civilians are being killed there, but on their side, they are saying that it's a hard time for them because this is not exactly what they wanted to do. So what they are doing now is to look for the Hamas people. But however, whilst they are doing that, are also civilian casualties. We're finding that there are a lot of casualties that is happening in Gaza. But also, I had an opportunity opportunity to go to the West Bank. West Bank is within Israel, and at West Bank, it's Palestinian people that are staying there. I had an opportunity also to speak to them on what they think about this war that is going on. Quite different sentiments, especially from the Palestinians who are living in Gaza, telling me about their living conditions. There is a wall that is about 80 meters that was built by the Israel side. And the Israel side is saying this war is a separation, it's called a separation war, where people from the Palestinian and people in the West Bank are not allowed to come into Israel. So the Palestinian people are saying that this war is dividing them with the Israel, and they can't get in employment because most of the employment, they can be only employed in Israel. And because in Palestine, the kind of economy that is there, they can't get employment there. So it's quite a very tense situation other than the political side and also the economic side here in Israel, especially for the Palestinian people.
Well, South Africa is saying it will arrest Israeli soldiers holding dual citizenship. What more can you tell us about this?
This doesn't come as a surprise because we all know that South Africa has taken its stance, especially about this conflict. International Minister Naledi Pandor has come out several times calling for ceasefire, and we also know the ICJ case where South Africa filed that they need a ceasefire in Israel and Gaza war. So this doesn't come as a surprise. And for South Africa to come out saying that there is a law in South Africa where if you have a dual citizenship, especially with the Israel people who are here, Israelites rather, who are here in South Africa, there is a law that is given that you have to be permitted under the arms control laws, that you can go into another country and fight in that country. Because most of these Israelis that are in South Africa are also citizens of South Africa. So for Naledi Pandor, that is the Minister of International Relations, it's justified for South Africa to say that those that have gone to fight in Gaza and taking the stance that South Africa is at, that when they come back to South Africa or when they go back to South Africa, they will be arrested. So this stance that South Africa has taken is not new. We all know where South Africa stands, especially about this conflict.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on the news. Bongani Sisiba, our correspondent right there live in Tel Aviv, Israel. Thank you for your insight.
Thank you.
Nigeria has faced challenges such as weakening naira, high inflation, and uncertainty in policy making. However, analysts at Goldman Sachs see a positive development, a notable change in monetary policy. Is Nigeria truly on a path of recovery? Oladipo Ajayi, head of fixed income and FX at Chapel Hill, Denham, discussed the paths in the Goldman Sachs report that mentions that the country emerging from a period of monetary policy transition marked by a lack of reliable policy anchor.
The mention of the fact that Nigeria is moving to moving to a more credible policy, it makes a lot of sense because they are looking at it from the angle that you can't perpetually keep monitoring or keep your rates stagnant while inflation is skyrocketing. You need to actually move rates. And if you also read the report, you will see where they actually mention the fact that for a long time now, the policy rate has become ineffective. And so it simply means that the monetary policy meetings all the while has been more like a teapot. So what they're trying to just highlight there is to state that truly the new CBN governor is actually working in stock. And you know, he mentioned that his policy will be inflation targeting. He mentioned that it will at least move to a more flexible exchange rate compared to a peg exchange rate system where we're coming from. He mentioned he talked about greater transparency and across board many other things that he actually mentioned. And because of the fact that they're already seeing the impact of what he actually mentioned. And that's one of the reasons why JP Morgan actually mentioned that we are moving to a more credible.
Standard Bank, Africa's largest bank, predicts a stronger growth rate of 3.2% for Ghana in 2024, surpassing the International Monetary Fund's projection of 2.8%. The growth is driven by the services sector, which accounted for 42.03% of Ghana's GDP in 2022. During an appearance on the Business Edge show, Paul Yor Frempong, a development economist and executive director at the Africa-China Center for Policy and Advisory, shared his recommendations for further developing the services sector.
Yeah, even the government budget for 2024, the projection is that the service sector is looking about 6.3%, even as of Q2 of 2024. So I believe that it's all in line with the fact that the service sector has been a huge contributor to Ghana's growth, of course, followed by agriculture, which is very essential. I believe that if we can pay more attention to that sector as well, we can actually be able to boost the growth. So I believe that they're all in line in terms of government projection for the year, and of course, what the IMF and the Standard Bank also projecting. There are a lot of nuances happening in the Ghanaian economy as we speak. In the beginning, I think the government hinged most of the happenings on, of course, first COVID-19, and then you talk about the Russia-Ukraine crisis. But now it's beyond that, because you look around the world today, there are a lot of geopolitical happening that could easily influence or impact what is happening in Ghana, especially what happens to the U.S. economy is very essential. What happens to the Chinese economy is very essential. All of that can actually affect, what we are expected to happen in Ghana in the years to come. So I believe that the government earlier on, as I said, was dealing with some of the issues. Now we're talking about a lot of, instabilities in the Ghanaian economy. There are a lot of price hikes. Inflation was all-time high a couple of months ago. It's still very high, double digit, the highest of double digit as we speak. So the governments, have to be, very strategic to try and diversify as much as they can and not rely.
The Confederation of African Football has accepted a request by the Nigeria Football Federation to move next month's Women's Olympic Football Tournament final qualifying fixture first leg encounter between Nigeria and South Africa by 1 hour. The game, which is the opening leg of the fixture that will determine which of the two teams will be one of Africa's two flag bearers at this year's Women's Olympic Football Tournament in France, was initially scheduled to start 4 p.m. on Friday, 5th April, but now will start by 5 p.m. at the MKO Abiola National Stadium. Meanwhile, the South African Football Association has now chosen the Loftus Versfeld Stadium in Pretoria for the return leg on Tuesday, 9th April. The encounter will commence at 7:30 p.m. South African time and 6:30 p.m. Nigerian time. And that's all on the news at this hour. But before we go, let's take a look again at some of the major stories. President Chinedu has ruled out ransom payments to secure kidnapped victims. Nigeria has reopened land and air borders with Republic of Niger. We also told you that Kenya, to lead Haiti mission, wants new government in place. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen and follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Adebola Adedugba.